second here. Oh.
Jungle love, it's driving me mad. It's making me crazy, crazy. Jungle love, it's driving me mad. It's making me crazy. Yeah. We love this song. Hi, everybody. How are you doing on this Wednesday? Welcome to If These Walls Could Talk. And y'all know that song, and you must have figured out there's a reason we're playing
Absolutely. Steve Miller Band. We got the guitarist and bassist here
today.
Mr. Kenny Lee Lewis.
We have Kenny Lee Lewis here in the house today. We are broadcasting live from PANGEA. And
she just got this gorgeous
in the thrift store
that she's sharing with me, which I appreciate, but it's coming off.
Oh my God, it's so nice and long. I may have to keep it on, because with Easter being right around the corner, I'm in my Easter head, aren't you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
This is it.
It's all about. So I am Wendy Stuart, and this is
Tym Moss.
In case you already didn't know. And today our guest.
Well, firstly, this is If These Walls Could Talk.
I did say that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We're out of control.
Yeah.
It's the boa. You'll understand.
It's the spring weather.
It's the spring fever. Do you have spring fever?
Yes,
oh my
very,
God.
very much.
Yeah, me too. The weather's getting really great in New York. I know not everybody is in New York. Some of you all are in California where the weather's been great. I don't want to hear about it. I do not want to hear about it.
The weather is starting to break, and we're getting little days of warmth and
daffodils.
And
daffodils poking their little daffodil heads out of the ground. So our guest today, Kenny Lee Lewis,
oh my God,
performed with the Steve Miller Band since 1982. You all know these songs. Oh my God, there's so many. Swingtown, Fly Like an Eagle, Take the Money and Run.
Yes,
I love that.
Yeah, we're going to talk about all
story of my life. We're going to talk about all of it. Without further ado, I'd like to welcome the one, the only Kenny Lee Lewis.
Hey, the phone rings right then.
Right on cue.
How are you?
Turn the ringer on. I mean, as soon as you said that, bells started going off. Okay.
There you go, Kenny. Telephone for you.
Oh my God.
Actually,
so anyway, nice to meet you. I heard you were singing Jungle Love there when you were doing the intro. That was written.
Did we do a good job?
Yeah, and so that was written by my friend Greg Douglas and the original bass player for Steve Miller, Lonnie Turner. So I just wanted to give that credit right up.
And thank you. We really believe in giving credit where credit is due. Often, especially as we all move forward in history, credit is not often given where credit is due, and people forget. And one of the things that we pride ourselves on this show is bringing that up. So
absolutely.
Thank you.
Celebrating creativity.
Yeah, and thank you for being here with us today.
Oh, my pleasure. No problem.
You're in beautiful California, right?
I'm in sunny California. As you can see, I'm a little more red than you guys because I get a lot of sun.
No, you have different lighting.
I've been working in the garden a lot, too.
Oh, nice.
You are.
Nice.
This is what I found out about. You're a gardener, and you've recently gotten into shade vegetables.
Into what?
Yes, I've been growing all kinds of interesting stuff.
Tell them about shade vegetables. Tell them what shade vegetables are.
Well, I mean, I'm not quite sure what that means.
Well, it's okay. I know what shade vegetables. They're vegetables that give shade. No, that's not. Shade vegetables are tomatoes, eggplant.
Right.
They're all. Some people have allergies to shade vegetables.
Right. I call those nightshades.
Nightshades. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, nightshades. But the other interesting thing about them is if you have any kind of arthritic condition, you probably shouldn't have nightshade vegetables.
So our guitar player in the Steve Miller Band, he can't have nightshades.
There you go.
Wow.
So you learned that. Isn't it like a helpful little factoid? Yeah. And here you go. It's just music.
Well, I mean, I was going to ask you this later, but we're kind of on that subject. So during this lockdown or during this pandemic, I'm sure you're at home. You're not out on the road anymore. So which would be a completely different change of life there. And so what have you been doing to occupy your time?
To cope.
Well, I did do some streams from the house in the spring of last year with my band, The Friends, FRENZ. If you want to see what that's all about, you can go to Friends Music. FRENZmusic.com is our website, and you can kind of see what that's all about. That's kind of like a classic rock, throwback band that I also do original material in. And we were broadcasting and streaming that live, and taking donations. And I kept the guys working for a little while. And then all of a sudden, everybody started streaming. And then all the donations got diluted. And then rehearsals and to get set up and everything. It just wasn't paying enough. So we stopped it after about 3-4 months.
Yeah.
Aren't you doing a YouTube channel about this also, where you're going to be teaching like guitar frets and stuff?
Right. That's another thing. That's my YouTube channel. You go to Kenny Lee Lewis YouTube channel, and there's a thing on there called Fret Friends, F-R-E-F-R-E-N-Z, fret like a guitar, F-R-E-T-F-R-E-N-Z, Fret Friends. That's on my channel. And I do like master classes on guitar and bass, and it's more like entertainment, and it's free. And then in addition, I'm just getting ready to launch my pay-per-view subscription lesson website, which will be called Fret Friends as well. And that'll be launching in the next couple of weeks. It's taken me a while to get that going because I had a tech person that flaked on me, and I had to get another guy, and he had to sort of catch up to the project. And so we're ironing out all the bugs and getting the credit cards hooked up and all that stuff. So that should be, and there's be like 40 lessons on there. And that'll be debuting in the next couple of weeks.
Amazing. Excellent.
Yeah, there is something to be said for this pandemic, for people getting to do projects that you would have never been doing this before if you were touring.
Yeah, well, I've been in the Steve Miller Band for 39 years on and on.
Wow.
I only had one little break from 87 to 93 where I stayed home and raised my first child and whatnot. But I came back in 93. But I've been in the band a long time. But when we've taken breaks before, they were planned, we would actually plan to do other things and set up jobs ahead of time. This was so sudden, and we had to cancel the tour last year that it was just like we just had the roots ripped out of the plant, We had to start all over again. But it's been
for saying that. That's exactly what happened.
What it does is it forces you to go internally and figure out, well, what do I have to offer? And I'm not on the pardon the expression, the corporate tit of the Steve Miller organization right now. So how do I reinvent myself to monetize what I can offer and bring in income so I can take care of my family?
You are I'm just so impressed with you. You're quite a guy. I mean, hands-on dad. So far, I've gotten hands-on dad. You're borrowing your wife's computer today.
She just insisted. I usually use my laptop in the bedroom. Like I said, it's already set up for this StreamYard and everything. But she says, no, you got to use the backdrop. So she got all excited because
that's fabulous.
Said, okay, but she doesn't have Chrome on her computer or anything. So I uploaded Firefox real quick and. That's why I'm here. But I listened to Mi Sposa, which, by the way, Diane Steinberg Lewis, who's my wife, she's the only Lucy. She's the only Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds that's ever been. She was in the Sgt. Pepper movie with the Bee Gees and Peter Frampton. And if you go and you see that old movie from 1978, she's all over the movie. And she's Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. She's the only one that's ever been.
Oh my God! And you married Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. I mean, God, how many people could that? I totally love that. That's so good. We should have your wife come on too.
Her family all grew up in Memphis during the late 40s and early 50s. And they were there when rock and roll was invented.
Wow.
Until years later. And then Elvis used to drive her family and another family called the Newborn family crazy, asking all kinds of questions of how to put a show together. Should I dye my hair black? Because if you don't know, he was a blonde originally. And he copied their look, went to the Lansky's to get the suits. This is all in a documentary that we're trying to get
That's fascinating.
To help us make a documentary right now. But her family's amazing. And then her mother, who was a DJ on WDIA in Memphis, moved up to Detroit in '63. And then she broke all the Motown acts.
Oh, Motown.
Yeah, and she was and she's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Her mother, Martha Jean, the Queen.
Get out! That's incredible.
So that's my wife. Just to give you a little background.
Oh yeah,
when she says use this backdrop, you listen.
Yes, exactly.
And you tell her what a fabulous backdrop it is. So, you grew up in California, right?
Yes, my dad and I were both born in California. He was born in 1922 in Alhambra, and I was born in 1954 in Pasadena. So we were California people. But then we moved up to Northern California in 1960, and that's when I did all my school years and got influenced by the San Francisco hippy-dippy Fillmore area.
Oh, wow.
The Fillmore in San
But
Francisco.
also the nature of, Shasta and Tahoe and, our river. I became a fisherman really young. And so very outdoorsy Boy Scout, the whole bit. And that was all Northern California upbringing.
So now, when did you discover guitar? I think, was it your brother that gave you one of his old ones, or ukulele? You originally started on ukulele.
He didn't give me that till I'd already become a professional. He just was cleaning out the garage one day and went, "Hey, you want this old guitar we used to play?" I started out on ukulele when I was about 7, playing for the family because my brother and sister were folkies. They were doing all the Peter, Paul, Mary, and Ian Sylvia, Brothers Four, Kingston Trio.
Oh my God, I love that music. Off the Magic Dragon.
Off the Magic Dragon. All that. Leave It on a Jet Plane. They were singing those at our family functions, and I was the younger brother, and I just was left out. My hand couldn't reach around that guitar, so I just get over in the corner and sulk because they were getting all the attention because I was the baby. So I borrowed, or I begged for my aunt Dolores's ukulele in Berkeley, California. I said, "Can I borrow your ukulele from the 1920s?" And I'm 7 years old making a deal with my aunt, right?
Smart kid.
I don't need that because I can't bust into the industry unless I get my hand around a small neck.
And a ukulele would have been
and started playing with the family, and that's how that started. And then years later, I ended up borrowing that guitar you spoke of. That it's actually sitting right in this room over here. It's an old Sears Silvertone. He bought it for $40 in about 1962 or something, 61, 62. And I finally was able to get my hand around that, and that's when I started learning how to play guitar. And that was probably around in the early 6th grade. I'm thinking.
Wow.
And then the rest is history. Now, when you were in high school, you had an opportunity through a friend. You went to Texas, right? You got to play.
Oh, yeah. Well, the lead singer that was in my band, because I had a band by then, was a Japanese fellow by the name of Danny Nagasawa. And he got the role of Wolf in the Venus company of Hair, which was around the country. And because I helped him get the gig, he came into my house with a little tape recorder. And I played guitar, and we did a couple of demos. I think he sang, Robert Goulet, "I Gotta Be Me," or so. I can't remember what he was doing. But he auditioned, he got the gig, and he was just out of high school. So the guitar player in the pit band was getting ready to have a baby, and he wanted to go back to Boston to be with his wife for a week, and they needed a sub, and he insisted that they try me out.
Oh my God.
So they sent me the charts, and I was a junior in high school, and they sent me the charts, and I memorized the arrangements, and I brought the charts with me, and I went out and auditioned, played the pit band, played the show. Everything worked out great, except I was just too young. I would have done it for the whole week, but they were like, "How old are you?" Because
right,
get stoned, and party all night long, and I wasn't even 18 yet, So they ended up letting me hang out for a few days because they paid for me to come out. This was in Fort Worth, Texas, where this all went down, and it was really a great experience. If you've ever seen the movie Almost Famous.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Cameron Crowe, what he went through with that movie is very similar to what I went through guitar with the hair bunch. I'd never been around a bunch of freaky people from New York.
Yeah, we're pretty freaky in New York here.
I was just a country boy from Sacramento, but I was hanging out with the freaks from Greenwich Village,
I'm curious, what was it like, not only like for you at 17 years old, right? You're in this freak show, but like, what did your parents, how did they feel about you being there?
Well, because my dad was kind of cheap, but he always wanted to be a musician. His grandmother and all of his aunts were silent movie actresses, and they were all in the business, and he always wanted to be in the business. So he thought it was kind of a cool thing, and because he didn't have to pay for it, he just went, "Well, your grades are pretty good." And my mom was going, No, he can't go. He's too young. And my dad goes, "Well, yeah, they paid for it. Let him try it out. His grades are good." I think it was it happened over an Easter break or something. I can't remember.
I love it.
But however it was, they let me go. I mean, it was in hindsight, they probably shouldn't have.
Oh, but that is so
right,
it was just Almost Famous. I mean, I was deflowered. I got high for the first time. I'm hanging out with gay folks.
Deflowered and high.
Greenwich Village, New Yorkers.
Yeah, it was fun. But I came back, and my dad was kind of like, he could see the glint in my eye, and he's going, "You have a good time?" And so, my mom was going, what went out there? And my mom's back going like this. So
great confirmation of your talent at that age.
17.
Well, what it did,
to handle that.
it made me feel as if I could actually do it as a business,
Of course.
as an occupation. And I went like,
Right.
yeah, I could do this, because I was going to, the Vietnam War was I think it was just getting ready to culminate.
Mm-hmm.
And my number was coming up pretty soon. And it was just like, I thought I was going to go become an electronics, engineer in the Navy and, just all this crazy stuff. And then all of a sudden they abolished the draft. And so I was like, oh,
right.
I'm a free agent. Maybe I can go on the road and become a musician. So that's what I did.
And the rest is really history. Now, and when you first started, I'm sure you played with a number of different bands before you hit the Steve Miller Band. How did all that come about?
Well, I ended up moving to LA in '73 because I wanted to become a studio musician. And I went through a couple of incarnations of recording projects that didn't go anywhere. And then I got into trouble with a biker who was trying to kill me because I beat his ass in a parking lot. He was trying to accuse me of being with his girlfriend, which was a lie.
Oh my God, I love these stories. I live for these.
Kicked his ass. He was Satan's slave. This was in Canoga Park. And I kicked his ass because I was a football player and I didn't take no shit, right? So basically, I slammed his head on the sidewalk and said, "What's wrong with you?" And so I embarrassed him in front of his friend. And then now he's trying to shoot me. I'd come home at night from the music stores working on. He was shooting my windshield with a .22 and everything.
God.
It was just a coincidence that a guy came into the store. I was working at Splevens Music City in Topanga Plaza in Woodland Hills. And he says, "Hey, we're looking for a guitar player to join a road band. We're getting ready to go all over the United States, a cover band. And you know any guitar players that want to do this gig?" I said, "I'll do it."
Yeah, right.
And it got me out of town, so I got away from the Satan slave. And then I went on the road for about 6 months with this band, and that was the first time I worked professionally as a musician. I was 18 years old.
Wow, how
amazing
cool.
Story, right?
Uh-huh.
What happened to the bully? I'm curious.
To lead up to what you were asking me, then eventually I got a record deal with a band called Pieces that I was in, and I was a writer and a singer in that. And at that time, I was dating Diane, who became Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds.
Oh.
And she had an ABC album that she had just done that I actually played bass on and co-wrote with her. And through that, I got to become a studio musician and got, pretty well known around town. Eventually made it to a studio called Fidelity Recorders, which was owned by Artie Ripp, who was the manager for Billy Joel, who literally ripped him off of all of his money, if you remember that story.
I remember the story, right?
One of the drummers that was doing demos in that studio was a guy named Gary Malaber. And Gary Malaber liked my bass playing, and he invited me to join one of the bands that was kind of getting put together at that time there. And it was a gentleman, an artist by the name of Gerard McMahon, and he was a pretty good writer on April Blackwood. And he was an artist. This is the 80s. And so we became friends and co-writers, Gary Malaber. And through that friendship, Steve Miller, Gary had played on almost all of Steve's big hits on the Greatest Hits album, drums. And so he got a call from Steve Miller one day looking for material for the Abracadabra album, which didn't have a title yet, and wanted to know if we could send our demos, because we'd just written 8 songs that we did in Gary's garage. We mastered them. They sounded great. We were going to go for our own record deal with a band called Robbie U-Bop. And Steve ended up taking all 8 of the songs, and he cleaned us out. We had no songs. So we were like not a band anymore. We had no material. And all those songs got transferred to the Steve Miller masters that he started working on. And that's when we developed a song that he had called Macho Children, which had terrible lyrics, but we ended up working on the lyric. He ended up writing new lyrics. He actually wrote them, and then ended up being called Abracadabra. Sold 5 million copies.
Wow. Incredible. Almost like water.
Yeah. So that's the condensed version of how it all happened. But there were a lot of other artists that I played with in between my first record deal and then getting with Steve, because that was from about 1976 to about 82. I was very active in the studio business in Los Angeles.
Well,
bunch of movies, bunch of artists, Dusty Springfield, Billy Preston, Dave Mason, Billy Burnett, Dwight Twilley. I mean, I was doing all these projects,
But that's what I mean. And all of those that you just mentioned are that's a wide variety of styles.
Not only that, I was doing Japanese, animated cartoon series, commercials. I played on Rocky III soundtrack, you know. I mean, it was just like all kinds of crazy things that you do as a studio musician. There was no rules or regulations of what you're going to do. If you can read notation, which I learned in college, because I did do about a year in college in the jazz band, and I learned how to read real good. If you could read notation, you could show up, you know, because in those days everyone was getting paid. If you could just show up at 9 o'clock in the morning, be ready to play and read those parts, you got hired back. And so that's what happened. Is I got very active in the studio music.
Well, I mean, what a great basis for your musicianship, because again, then you can do rock or jazz or this or ballad or country, or I mean, you could play any style.
We played on a bunch of Japanese records because the studios in Japan got so expensive. It was cheaper for them to fly to Los Angeles. This was in the 80s and do records in Los Angeles. So I got on that gravy train. I was playing on Japanese artists' records. And then later on, I got into producing Persian music for Iranian people, because they all came after the Shah was imposed. They all moved to LA, and their culture, they needed their music produced. So I was producing those people too, including an artist named Daryush, who was kind of like he was like the, I don't know, he was like the Tom Jones of Iran or something.
Yeah. That is so totally, did you have any challenges doing that kind of music?
Yeah, because it was all an odd time and really, really weird, and you had to know how to read to get through all this weird. You know, I mean, all this weird stuff. Yeah. I mean, I learned that, and then that really helped my reading and my playing ability. And by playing almost different genres over the years, I was able to develop my own style in my playing that made me have my own voice as a player.
Yeah, those I mean, have some very odd synchronization or syncopation.
Yeah, it is syncopation. Yeah, it is.
The Tirani Orchestra, and you'll hear that.
Wow. Now you're watching If These Walls Could Talk with your hosts, Wendy Stuart and Tym Moss. Our incredible guest today is Kenny Lee Lewis, guitarist and bass player for the Steve Miller Band. And we're coming to you live from PANGEA in the East Village in New York City. And down below there will be GoFundMe, because PANGEA, like all restaurants right now here in New York City, is struggling. They're going through a hard time. So please, if you find it in your heart and in your wallet, just go to that GoFundMe and make a quick donation. It would be greatly appreciated.
And for anybody that doesn't know, PANGEA has hosted so many musicians, singers, performance artists.
I'm a chef too. Just to let you know.
Man, we got to get you here to PANGEA.
Over the years.
Where's PANGEA? Where is it in the city?
So we are on 2nd between 11th and 12th.
Yeah, 2nd Avenue.
Between 11th and 12th, right in the heart of the East Village. And we like to say here, they've supported the arts. Now we support them. That's what
we'll have to get over there. We always stay at the Michelangelo on 57th and Broadway.
Yeah.
We're actually, And so, you know, I could pop over there, you know, take a cab and come over. And
you let us know. Yeah. Believe me, we'll come. We'll join you here. We'll show you around.
And we want to have a big party here. Everybody who's on our show, you know, that's coming into New York, I'm like, yeah, let's just do it. You know.
Yeah, we should have a big party of all of our guests and have them all.
Oh my God, that would be totally insane.
That's another one of my projects, is a celebrity rock and roll cooking show where we have big artists come on and we make a dish, you know, like the Doobie Brothers come on and they do, you know, Blackwater Gumbo, and then we play the song on acoustic guitars in the studio to complement the recipe. And then we'll have a professional chef. I've got a friend that used to work at the Waldorf Astoria there in New York. He's a real nut, does Burning Man all the time. We could bring him on. He could show us tips and stuff. So I'm working on that right now. I actually have a pilot that I did in 1990 where we had Brian Wilson, Ginger Baker from Cream, and we had the bass player Mark Andes from Heart. They all came. We did a thing. You can go on YouTube. There's actually, it was called Rock and Roll Kitchen. A guy named Marty came up with the idea. I'm going to do my own, and mine's called This Kitchen Rocks. And I'm just getting ready to get that going too. As
you know, cooking shows are very hot. I don't cook, but I have a cooking show. It's called The Pandemic Cooking with Wendy. I do make things on there. I have no idea what I'm doing, but it doesn't matter because I just keep everybody laughing and entertained. And now I'm doing dog recipes because you know what, Kenny, your dog will never judge you. I
know. There's a restaurant here in town that actually has a dog menu that we order from.
Nice. I love
That's a great
unseasoned chicken breast. breast with rice, and stuff like that.
Oh my God, that's so. You've worked with a lot of different musicians over the years. Peter Frampton, Bonnie Raitt, Dave Mason, Eddie Money. Are there some maybe that I didn't name that you would probably not want to ever work with again? That they were just really difficult, or someone that you loved?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't want to. Well, there's a couple that were kind of interesting. I won't name names, but there were.
I need to name names.
You just kind of go, wow, man. I mean, they become your idols, when you're a young kid, and then you meet them, and you go, really?
And they burst your bubble.
I don't think so, man.
Just
I remember doing a really interesting gig with Steve Stills once on the USS aircraft carrier Kitty Hawk out in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. That was interesting. I won't.
What was that like? I love Stephen Stills. What was that like?
Well, I mean, I'm not going to go into detail because he's still around, and God bless his Steve. But a lot of my friends have worked for him over the years. But he's kind of a nutcase. But he's really talented. He's really talented.
When he sets foot on that stage,
an iconic American artist that we have to embrace, and he's just wonderful. But he's kind of sometimes, So anyway, that being said, about the really good ones, because that was when you
Gene on the brink of insanity, and a lot of creative people are like that.
And sometimes you just got to mark it up to well, that was an experience.
I got to work with Tom Jones one morning.
Cool.
And it was a Mark and Brian radio show live on radio, which was our K-Rock station here. I don't know if you're familiar with K-Rock, but it's a big station in Los Angeles. Yeah. And Mark and Brian were huge back in those days. And it was a thing where Mark or Brian were one of them was having a birthday. I think it was Mark. No, it was Brian. Oh, no, it's Mark, the blonde guy. Anyway, he loved Wayne Newton and Tom Jones because he liked to go to Vegas and see them. Well, for the birthday, Mark or Brian or whatever had him blindfolded, put him on stage. We had a live band, it was live broadcast, and he brought Wayne Newton and Tom Jones out from Las Vegas. He had to interview them, and they could disguise their voice if they want, and he had to guess who they are. And once he finally figured it out, it was kind of what's my line, they figured it out. Then they sing the song. So I got to do, It's Not Unusual with Tom Jones. That was really cool. We meet him backstage, and hear him warm up and stuff. Because he's Welsh like me. I'm a Welshman.
You're Welsh? I'm part Welsh also. You're 100% Welsh?
Well, he's Jones. I'm Lewis. We're all Welsh. So it was great to meet a fellow Welshman who's I just have idolized all my life. So that was really incredible.
I've got English.
You've got English. I could tell by looking at Tim, he's got some English. We're Welsh, English, and Scotch on my mother's side.
I'm the same. And I got French. I got French and German too. So
French and German.
I've got English. I've got English and Irish and German and Dutch and. I mean, it sounds like my
Jesus.
It sounds like my ancestors would sleep with anybody. That's where I get it from, I guess.
I see Nordic in you too, Tim. You can pass for Nordic.
But definitely. I just want to real quick, and then I want to find out you're really cool. Another cool experience that you had. Because I'm a name dropper, so I'm just going to drop a bunch of.
At least.
I'm going to drop a bunch of people that you have worked with, which are just remarkable in the industry. Pat Benatar, Melissa Manchester, George Thorogood, Donny Osmond, B.B. King, Tim McGraw, the Beach Boys, Travis Tritt, Boz Scaggs, Jim Messina, Doobie Brothers, Dusty Springfield, Edgar Winter, Toto, Meatloaf, Peter Frampton, Bonnie Raitt, Scotty Page, our buddy.
Yep.
Kenny Chesney, Eddie Money. Oh my God! I mean, these are people who have shaped American musical culture.
Yep. Yeah, it's been an interesting life, and of course, being a sideman, it's that old 10 feet from stardom thing. We have to put it into perspective all the time as sidemen that we are just. Basically, blue collar people helping to stoke the star maker machinery, to quote Joni Mitchell. And, we're not really the star. So we have to keep that in perspective, as we go out into the world, so we don't get too inflated and our ego doesn't get too crazy. We don't feel like we have a sense of entitlement. We're basically just regular people that just work for a wage.
Right. But it is an incredible amount of accomplishment.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, I mean, you could be a paralegal in a lawyer's office and have those same artists coming through that office. You can say that your hand touched their documents.
Yeah.
Now,
Well, this is a
It's
little
not-
more
it's
than
not-
you can
You
touch.
know, you're a plumber and you replumb their house, you know.
now
But
Kenny,
this is-
you were on stage with Paul McCartney, right?
Yes, in fact, it's funny you mentioned that. I just transferred a video last night that I had never transferred before of Earth Day 1993 at the Hollywood Bowl, when I first got back with Steve after taking my break that I spoke of. And we were doing an unplugged set just before Paul, and I met Paul backstage, just briefly, but he met me and was very polite. And Diane, because she'd already been Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds on the Sgt. Pepper movie.
Oh, right.
He already knew her, and so we were just watching from the wings at the end of the show, and we'd heard a rumor that he might want everybody in the show. I mean, there was all kinds of people on the show: Don Henley, Kenny Loggins, Natalie Merchant's 10,000 Maniacs, PM Don, Katie Lang, anyway, just all these big stars. So there was a rumor he was going to invite everybody to come out and sing at the end of the show, but we didn't know. So anyway, Diane and I were sitting on the side of the stage, and we're just watching from the wings. He gets to the point of the show. He goes, he looks over the wings. He goes, oh, Diane and Kenny, come on out and join me and help me sing Hey Jude at the end of the night.
Oh my
And we
God.
went, ah! And we walked out. And as we were walking out, he looked to the other side of the stage. He says, and Ringo, my buddy Ringo, come on out and help us sing the song. So we all meet in the middle of the stage. We
Amazing.
Hey Jude, and then the news network, which I got this video from, turned on the cameras, and I have it. I have the footage. And so I just transferred that last night, and I just digitized it, and I'm getting ready to put it up on Instagram.
Oh,
So
Kenny, that
we'll
is
get to-
awesome.
So this will be on your
So
YouTube.
the frame is Diane and I, Paul and Ringo, all singing Hey Jude.
Oh my God,
cool?
that's so
That's
cool.
really,
That's
really
so
cool.
And
historic.
of course, I've talked to Paul and Ringo several times after that, but that was the first time I'd ever hung out and met those guys.
Wow. Is on stage, center stage.
Yeah. Of course, Diane being the diva, she was, well, of course. She sort of grabbed my head and went, well, yeah, come on. She didn't think any twice about it. She got out there,
Listen,
like,
Diamonds.
just already on, and I was just out there going like,
Kenny, what do you think keeps you like so grounded? I mean, you've obviously outlined that you are, you support, right? And we've heard this from other musicians. They are the support person. You've got to be the glue, right?
right.
But it would still seem seemingly that you could lose your stuff, let your ego inflate, because look at your environment and look at who you are. What do you think keeps a person grounded in your shoes?
Well, the thing about surviving in the music industry or in any entertainment part of the entertainment business is to not just rest on the laurels of the past, and also to use all your skill sets that you have available.
Listen,
You might have to put it to a thing like, I was a manager at Guitar Center. When Steve took a break from 2001 to 2004, I had to go work. And so I became a manager at Guitar Center. I also been A&R research at guitar and amplifier corporations, building them, designing them, selling them, training on them. Everything you can think of with sales, manufacturing, promoting, being a testimonial, going to the NAMM show, playing in booths for people, demonstrating.
Playing in booths from giant stadiums.
All those things.
Right?
If you don't do all those things,
Yeah,
you're not going to survive in this business. I mean, of course, a songwriter. I had a lot of songs that went into movies and television shows, and and sometimes you just license a 10-second piece of it for commercial, and it's not all the same stuff. It's different facets of this giant diamond that you're creating. Your career is
a way to look at it.
How are diamonds made? They're underground and they're under a lot of pressure. That's how they get formed. So that's how you form yourself as an artist, is that you take your time to cut all those facets, put yourself under the pressure, and then in the end, you might shine.
That is
Oh my God, that is
incredible
so, that's such a
Incredible.
metaphor. What a great
Yeah.
way of putting it, invaluable information to share with anyone watching. A lot of young performers in the music industry, it's very frustrating, especially now. There's not as many opportunities as when you came up in it. They're different opportunities. They're
Yeah.
digital opportunities. And
Yeah, well, And also teaching is a part of it. I think it's karmatically, the teaching is what brings it back to it. I just before, the reason why I was late coming on to this thing was that I was just teaching a 10-year-old kid how to strum the guitar on the internet.
Nice.
Taking private lessons these days too. So I'm passing the baton on to a new generation.
I love that because music has changed so much over these past few years. And then with like, you can have a MacBook Pro and make a movie. You can create a movie on that or CD quality music.
Right.
And not even pick up an instrument.
That's right.
And it's
a lot.
That's a game changer.
It's shifted so much. So I'm so grateful to hear you're passing the torch on to a younger generation, because there's nothing like the strum of a guitar, that feeling.
Well, it's also healing. There's like a medical part of that, because the vibrations of the strings are doing things with your circulatory system, and your breathing, and your whole body aligns with that frequency that's being projected at you. You know, like the way crystals do and other types of sounds and whatnot. That's why we like, to listen to like wind chimes and all that stuff to meditate to. But a guitar pressed up against your body at 3 a.m. when you're depressed and you don't know how to get through the next day, and you hold a chord and you just strum it, all of a sudden those vibrations relax you.
Yeah.
And your heart, and you're healing yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Vibrations of that instrument. You don't have to be great at it. You just have to make a sound. In fact, if you study any kind of scripture or anything in the Old Testament, you read the Psalms by David.
Yes, right.
He used to take this little thing called a lyre, and he'd tune it to a chord, and he'd go into the garden, and he would just go, bring, and he would just listen to it. And that's when he would write these prose of Proverbs and Psalms. Well, Proverbs was his son, Solomon. But Psalms, most of the Psalms were written by David, strumming on just this lyre, just to hear those vibrations in the garden.
Yeah.
Really amazing. So it's funny that you should bring us to this part of your life, because I was going to ask you, you had a terrible accident. You sliced your hand open. You had to have nerves reconnected. I know you read this stuff about people, and I read that.
I mean, that can affect your
mental
life.
state, your physical state.
If you're as a guitarist.
Yeah, this is your livelihood. Like, what got you through this?
Yeah, I also fell off stage and broke 7 ribs and a piece of my spine.
Oh my God!
That I didn't know. My God, my right.
To the hand.
Oh my goodness!
So yeah, all those things happen where you think you're going to be robbed of the life spring of what made you who you are in terms of music. To think that I couldn't play was just like, it's so humbling, and you just kind of go like, if I had this taken away from me, what would I do for the rest of my life? How would I survive? And so you go through a lot of different onion layers of spiritual, reawakening and reconstruction that are able to bring back to you. If you approach it with the right attitude, then I believe that the karma of you releasing it lets it come back to you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
there's
a lot of wisdom.
You have to let it go for it to come out.
Yeah, from Kenny Lee.
I did that twice with my hand crushed.
Right.
On stage, I just kind of went. I mean, I could have. Easily been let go of the Steve Miller Band. He would have easily got another bass player. He let me heal for 6 weeks, and I came back, and it was really cool. He stood by me, and that was very, very cool too. There's loyalty and trust issues in the industry that are involved in all. A good friend of mine, Bob Birch, the bass player for Elton John, same thing. Elton just stopped touring. He didn't hire anybody else. He waited for Bob to get well.
Love it. Right.
Player. That was amazing that Elton did that.
Yeah.
And that's, we love hearing that kind of thing. I have to tell you telling this is just such an inspiration. Absolutely. In my day, I hang on to these stories like when I'm thinking, oh God, I just can't take another thing going wrong. And then I think of people that have had far worse things happen and how they have just powered through. And it is, as you know, Tim, a spiritual thing. It's absolutely a connection with your soul. We have a lot of comments coming up here.
Yeah, we do. We do. You're very well loved, but I kind of wanted to get to some of my B. Claudia, I believe, called you a legend.
Yeah. B. Claudia is amazing. She tunes in every week. She's in Germany, knows music inside out. Thank you for being here today, B. Claudia.
Now, because we're going to move on to Steve Miller Band and some of your experiences there.
Okay.
But my best friend, I grew up in Indiana, and my bestie, her name is Nancy Kuharski. Hi, Nancy.
Hi, Nancy.
She's in Fort Wayne, in the Fort Wayne area.
Oh yeah, I played in Fort Wayne when I was 18 years. Actually, I turned 19 by then. So that was one of the places I played the Sheraton in Fort Wayne in 1974.
Oh, wow. Nancy! Wow.
March of '74.
Wow, good memory. So, do you know Sweetwater's?
No.
Oh, Sweetwater's is a huge music complex.
I've actually heard of it.
We couldn't even leave the hotel. It was so bad outside.
Yeah, right. Well, anyway, Nancy said that the Steve Miller Band is the best concert band ever.
Love it.
Well, we don't have any backing tracks other than maybe just a couple synthesizer samples. We sing all of our vocals live, lead vocals. Steve is still singing in the original keys that he did the records in at 77 years old. I mean, it's amazing. And so we're a real live rock and roll band. We're not some where they got computers in the background.
Synthesizers and all that.
We're just a live rock and roll band.
Love that. Love that. And good music. Yeah. Oh my God.
What I call hardcore.
Yes. Now also, because I was in a few groups and we toured around and back in high school and college, and a couple of my good friends that Mike Good played the drums and Mike Littlejohn was the bass player, and I was one of the lead singers. And so they sent me a couple questions because they were happy to know I was going to be talking.
Okay.
But a couple of the questions is, what was a typical day on a Steve Miller Band tour? Like what?
Good question.
Your day.
Okay. We wake up at some point.
Right.
It could be 11, 12 o'clock, in the afternoon. Right. And we walk over to the door. That's the door, and our road manager has slid a day sheet under the door, which is a little sheet that is kind of like got all the activities and times of what's going on throughout the day, what time we're supposed to meet in the lobby, whether we're coming back to the hotel or not, or whether we pack our bags and leave and check out.
Good manager.
Yeah.
It's like being a camp director, basket weaving at 2, canoeing at 3, archery at 4 o'clock, it's that kind of a thing. And we're like little kids. We don't even have to even think. We just are told where to go, what time to be there, whether we need to check out and have our bags. That's about it. And then we do that. I mean, if we're staying in the hotel overnight, we might just get on the bus with our little day bag and go to sound check and stay. Or if it's close by, we have the option of either staying, eating dinner there, or coming back to the hotel and going to dinner in town or something. And then eventually we have to get back to the gig, after sound check, to get ready to do our vocal warm-ups, because we always do vocal warm-ups.
Nice.
We do that in Steve's bus, and that's about a 25-minute thing. And then we just sort of sit there for maybe a minute or two after that and just talk about the set and what we might do different or whatever. And then they come get us and we go on stage, and I don't have to do anything but just walk on, and somebody actually puts the guitar on me.
Love it.
I don't have to do it. I turn and somebody counts off whatever the first song is, and we're off to the races.
Off and running.
That's over. The show's over. We go off stage. We might do an encore and come back. And then once we're done with the encore, we just leave our instrument on stage.
Oh, man.
We rush to get on the bus. We don't hang out backstage in the green room. Even if we're staying in town, most of the time we go back to the hotel because we're all sweaty and everything, and we just want to just change our clothes. If we have family, we might stay afterwards in the green room, eat the guacamole and give some beer to everybody,
beer.
We go back to the hotel, take a shower, and then we might go to the bar and have a glass of wine, and then we turn in, or if we're going to the next town, we'll come right off stage. And this happens more times than not. We get right on the bus, or out of there. And if it's a venue that has difficult parking and a large parking lot, we literally run off stage, run into the bus, and literally have a police escort get us out of there as quickly as possible.
Yeah, of course.
Otherwise, we might be stuck in the parking lot for an hour or two.
Absolutely. Wow, that's
so
amazing.
there's no, what happened to all the after party? The 80s, there were so many parties, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. What? Not anymore. Huh?
All we're doing now is looking for fine wine in restaurants.
Yeah.
That's why we're all chefs.
And a good night's sleep.
We're not chasing skirt and looking for the dealer.
Yeah, right.
Too
Those
funny.
days are gone, but that's brilliant. That's great.
It's a great question.
What do you do for fun on and off the Steve Miller Band tour?
I do a lot of fishing. I get up in the morning. If we're in a town that has a river or a lake nearby, if I have the energy, I'll go fishing. And if we go to a venue where there's a river or lake nearby after sound check, I'll go fishing.
Really like fishing.
I've literally been fishing and catching large bass while Peter Frampton is playing his show, and I can hear him playing. I'm in you, and I'm pulling in a fish while he's playing. And then I get back in time to get dressed and get on stage.
Any better than that? Do you do fly fishing where you throw it?
I do it all. I do ocean. I do freshwater.
You wear the high boots and all of that.
I don't take my waders on the road. If I'm fly fishing on the road, I usually just do it from the shore. Like we were doing a gig way up in the mountains in the Rockies in Colorado a couple years ago, and I was literally fly fishing dry. I was literally looking at the stage and catching fish because the creek ran right in back of the stage, and I was literally catching these beautiful trout while I was looking at my bass on stage.
Oh my God.
That's heaven
So
for Kenny.
now you play bass or guitar or
I played guitar with Steve for 28 years, and then in 2009, our bass player broke his ankle in 4 places.
Oh.
And I'm a bass player as well. I've always played bass and guitar equally as well. And I met Steve as a bass player and a guitar player. And when our bass player broke his ankle, he couldn't stand, and we were in the middle of the tour. And so they had me fill in on bass, and then we just had one guitar player. I went from guitar to bass. And so I stayed on there while we waited for him to for his ankle to heal. And the drummer and the manager, who also is our in-house mixer, loved the groove so hard that I was doing on the bass. For whatever reason, they decided that I would stay on bass. And we ended up hiring a guitar player to take my place. So that's how I moved from guitar to bass. And then in 2010, I became full-time bass player for the Steve Miller Band, and we hired a guitar player. And the other bass player went back to his jazz gigs because he was really a jazz player. He was an upright bebop kind of guy. And he went back to doing that, which he loves the most. He was pretty much, it's a long story of how he got in the band. I thought I turned that off.
I thought I turned mine off too before.
We got dings and rings going. I love it.
Dongs
Now, the hits. Now, Steve plays guitar.
Yes.
Right? He gets all those fun like riffs and stuff, like the opener at Jet Airliner. Isn't that da 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 da? Is that Jet Airliner?
Yeah. On the record, Steve played that, but when he played live, the guitar player, the other guitar player, and he played dual leads. When I was the guitar player, I would be playing that as dual leads with him.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, and we would do that up front because it's in kind of in octaves.
And, right.
Yeah. In fact, there's a video we did in Chicago in 2008. I just put that up on my YouTube, and that actually starts with me by myself playing the lead guitar part. It makes it look like I'm the lead guitar player.
Wow.
It's kind of cool. So I took that video. Of course, I had to put that up on YouTube. But if you go to my YouTube channel, Kenny Lee Lewis, you'll see that.
There's a bunch of really cool stuff up there.
YouTube channel.
Yeah, I mean, so you would get to play all of these, excuse the language, but fucking awesome songs night after night after night, like Take the Money and Run and Keep On Rocking Me, Baby, Jet Airliner, and Some People Call Me the Space Cowboy.
Are you playing air guitar?
Oh, yeah.
I thought you were playing air guitar.
And Some People Call Me Maurice.
Yeah, the Joker is probably the biggest song that we do. That's the end of the night, and everybody loses their mind when we do it.
Yeah, did you get to do the Maurice line? Some People Call Me Maurice.
Yeah, that's cool. He does that. He gets to do it on his slide. Actually, I was playing 12-string acoustic. I wasn't even playing electric on that song because it's an acoustic guitar, and so the guitar player plays acoustic on that song.
Okay.
And Steve just does all the sound effect stuff.
But like Jungle Love, driving me mad.
That was a song that I was kind of the soloist on because Steve did not write that, as I mentioned at the beginning of this interview.
Right.
That was a song that Greg Douglas wrote. So I get to do the great. I don't do it anymore. Our guitar player Jacob does it. But I'd come out front and even fall to my knees and slide around and whatever. So I got to do Greg Douglas's part, which Steve never ever learned properly. He never play it because it's done in a G tuning, dobro open slack tuning.
I have no idea what that is. But
so the second guitar player gets to do the lead guitar on that.
Oh, sweet. And abracadabra. And fly like an eagle.
To the sea. It's just like
I used to get a solo when I was playing guitar. When I was playing guitar with Steve, I used to get a big solo and fly like an eagle. And that was a big deal. And I did that for several years. And if you go to my website, kennyleelewis.com, the first thing you hear when you bring up my website is my solo. Playing right after Joe Satriani. He just did his solo, and I isolated my solo right after his solo, and that's what you hear when you come onto my website.
Wow! I mean, oh God, just
amazing.
what a body of work and a career that you have had. It's just I thank you for taking some time and coming and hanging with us and sharing.
Well, listen, again, getting back to reality. Even though I did all those things, I was still a paid employee,
right?
Working for a rock star,
right?
That perspective,
still, the experience of, again, like you were saying, you get off the bus, you walk on stage,
the whole thing,
the guitar. I mean, to a stadium full of screaming people.
The perception that the audience sees is that I am a rock star. That is the perception. And that's okay. And so a lot of times when people are gushing about meeting me and congratulating me and stuff, when I say put it in perspective, when they do that, I have to sort of put a mojo filter on while they're saying it all. Oh my God, I love your music. A lot of them think I wrote the songs. They go, I just love your music all my life and you're a god. And I go like, okay, thanks.
Yeah, I'll take that.
Let them have it, because even though I could sit there and explain to them for 5 minutes of how that is not true, it would just burst their bubble and it just ruin their day.
Right, exactly.
Now, one other question I had for you, which I'm sure in studio work might be different than live shows, but when you do studio work, I'm sure you have a different guitar or use a different guitar for different songs, like different.
Yeah. Yeah, like when we did our blues albums back in 2008, I was playing some dobro acoustic slide on some of their songs. I used my Don Grosh custom guitar the most on those records. And then there's acoustics, different acoustics, 12 strings, 6 strings. Sometimes we'll use a mandolin or something, but not very often.
Love the mandolin.
You know, when you're recording, you use different stuff.
Yeah. And when you did your live shows, did you use one guitar or did you?
I had about 8 or 9 of them.
I never knew that. That's really so cool thing.
Well, that's because each tool serves a different purpose, you know.
All guitars look alike to me.
Some of them are tuned into different keys. Some of them are tuned in different tuning.
I know.
Yeah.
We have 6-string acoustics. We have 12-string acoustics. I know. I mean, they were all different. They all had different purposes.
And they have different feel or different sound to them.
Some of them had humbuckings, were like Les Pauls. And by the way, not to go back in our thing, but one of the other great moments in my life was playing Les Paul's 90th birthday at Carnegie Hall.
Yeah.
What was that like?
Yes.
Well, that was one of my great moments. I just want to throw that in there.
Carnegie
Hall. A lot of great guitar players on that bill. It was the city of Los Angeles. The city of New York, New York City, and the Les Paul Society there were the ones that organized that. It was his 90th birthday. They had everybody on that bill. It was amazing. But we were one of the bands that got to play and hang out backstage. I mean, I got to hang out with Pat Martino and Bucky Pizzarelli and Tommy Emmanuel and, Neil Sean. I mean, I'm just hanging back there,
That's so cool.
Eating the guacamole and having a beer with them, and it was.
Kenny Lee Lewis, you're a rock star, no matter how you. You can't get away from it.
But anyway, but getting back to the gear, Les Paul was one of the guitars that I was using in my arsenal because that had a particular sound, and you had to have the Les Paul guitar for that sound.
Absolutely. Well, you've been watching If These Walls Could Talk with your hosts, Wendy Stuart and Tym Moss, and our incredible guest today, which I'm so grateful. Thank you again.
Oh, my pleasure.
Kenny Lee Lewis. And you can find out everything about Kenny Lee Lewis at his website, kennyleelewis.com.
Yep, and I'm also an author. I have a novel. I have a novel on Amazon that's been selling really great last couple of years called Skeleton Dolls, Children of the Tower. It's on Amazon on both hard copy and Kindle. So you can go there and check that out.
That's scary. That sounds
also a
scary.
link on my website. So
Is that a scary book, Kenny?
a little bit. It's kind of Stephen King-y, Dan Brown.
From the title.
It's about twins. I think you'd really love it. It's about the original language of God prior to the Tower of Babel being destroyed.
Ooh, sweet.
Love it. Great little synopsis
I love
for us.
that.
Have you known any twins? Have you ever known any identical twins?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Have you ever known that they spoke in their own language when they were children?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're like
That's what this book
psychically
is about.
connected from when they were in the womb.
That's what this book is about, and they use it in their adult life.
Yeah.
Ah.
And you could use it for good or for evil.
It's about a true story.
Oh,
Is it? Really?
cool.
You knew
cool.
these twins?
Yeah. Yeah,
Wow.
I'm trying to shop the sequel right now with agencies. So if there's any agents out there, I'm looking for an agent for representation for the second book because I haven't self-published that one yet.
Okay, perfect. Now, is Diane nearby?
No, she ended up taking off. I think she went.
Oh,
Darn.
man. We wanted
Yeah.
to say hello to her.
Yeah.
You just have to just go. Well, I mean, just Google her, and she's on IMDb and all that stuff. But yeah, she's getting ready to get a website. I've been nagging her for years to do it.
Well,
But she's been doing a lot of interviews lately. A guy named David Fedor just did a Bee Gees thing with her with the movie with Sgt. Pepper, and that's available online. But you could just Google Diane Steinberg, just Diane Steinberg without the Lewis.
Okay.
Diane Steinberg, Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds interview, and there's a whole bunch of them up there right now.
How cool is
Sweet,
that?
sweet.
Yeah.
and
She has a slew of stories too. Let me tell you,
We have to have the two of you back now.
absolutely,
Definitely.
absolutely.
it'll be fun.
Now, one thing I wanted to say also is thank you also because Kenny stepped in at the last minute, with a day in advance. So we really appreciate
Yeah, thank you.
your agreeing to come on because this is just fascinating
You did great.
just a wonderful time. Had a wonderful time. Just
Well, good. I'm glad you enjoyed it, and I'd love to come back anytime and let me know. And keep on rocking, you two guys. So you're Wendy, right? You're Wendy.
See? Like the hamburgers or
She's
Peter
Wendy.
Pan?
Wendy
Wendy and
Tim.
Wendy
Well,
Stuart.
Meet you, Wendy and Tim.
Tim TYM. So yeah.
All right.
But thank you very much.
Thank
we
you,
appreciate
Kenny
this.
Lee Lewis, for being here with us today on If These Walls Could Talk. Thank you to our fabulous audience.
And to Pangea here.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, I got to go eat there.
Yeah,
Yes,
absolutely.
You're on. We'll make a reservation. You let us know.